Okay, so before this video starts, I have rewritten parts of it so many times because every time I think it's done, a new piece of information comes out, so I'm just going to try to get out as it is. But I started writing it as a Sonia Bompastor should be sacked video. However, she then got an extension, and then on Monday it was reported that Paul Green, the head of women's football at Chelsea, who has been at the club for 13 years, built the club to what it is today with Emma Hayes, has been relieved of his duties. This just means that Chelsea's issues go way beyond Bompastor, and The Athletic has an article already out about that. All you have to know is that BlueCo is just completely destroying the women's side. Ever since the takeover, Green has had a little less power over the women's team, and they've introduced more of the men's operations into controlling the women's side, which don't know why you would do that. Paul Winstanley and Laurence Stewart, who run the men's team, have no experience in women's football, and they just chucked away Green, a man with insights into women's football that almost no one else in the world has. Green leaving is a huge blow to the club, and I am very scared for Chelsea women's future now. It seems to be a power struggle where BlueCo is trying to consolidate the men's and women's teams. I don't really understand that because the women's team was being ran really well, so why would you want to change that? If they chose Bompastor over him, that's complete mismanagement. It's speculation, but also budget cuts could be a factor in everything going on, and I would hate for Chelsea's downfall to be because of budget. I will probably wait until the end of the season to do a complete post-mortem of the situation. Everything is changing every 10 seconds, so this video will still be primarily about Bompastor, but even before all this was coming out, there were some signs that something was wrong behind the scenes. So yeah, Bompastor is just a start of Chelsea's issues right now. Some people will look at this run of games and say Chelsea are just in a rough patch. And to that I'd say, you're actually not either watching the matches or you're not taking the season as a whole into account. And now it's worse. Dressing room exposés came out, and you know I love a good dressing room exposé. And everything points to Bompastor losing the locker room. And now, in the midst of shouts for her job, Chelsea have just announced an extension of Bompastor's contract, which was agreed to before the City and Arsenal losses, despite the fact her contract was already until 2028. Listen, in a year you might see history repeating itself. I wanted to make this video for a few weeks now, but I kept telling myself to wait and see how things played out. The loss to Arsenal at Stamford Bridge happened, and it took everything in me not to make a video. The women's football chat actually did a good breakdown of Bompastor's strange tactical decisions in that game, which I'll link below, so I won't really repeat anything they said here. And at the time, I kept holding on to this idea that, Chelsea have just been dominant for so long. They're going to lose games eventually, not be as dominant, and so maybe I was just overreacting. Yeah, no, it's serious. This loss to Manchester City has been a long time coming, and honestly, it could have been this bad in the cup game 2 weeks ago if City had actually finished their chances. Watching Chelsea right now, the players look isolated, like they're out there on an island with no clear direction. This 5-1 result was not a one-off. It was a well-oiled machine in Manchester City versus Chelsea, who is losing its identity. This whole season from Chelsea, we have seen consistently poor attacking performances despite the level of talent in the squad. I understand why this may seem like an overreaction, but I have been thinking about this since the 8-2 loss to Barcelona on aggregate last year. And the same solvable problems that were pointed out at the beginning of the season are still relevant halfway through the campaign. Early in the season, I raised red flags about Bompastor's tactics and mentality after the draw to Twente. And even though it became my most disliked video because Chelsea fans didn't take it well, the same problems I was talking about early in the season are the same problems that I will be talking about today. So let me ask you now, do you still think I'm overreacting? Because at this point, there's a very real chance Chelsea play themselves out of Champions League qualification. I don't see them winning many more games playing like this. And honestly, even before kickoff against City and Arsenal, Chelsea fans knew they were going to lose the moment they saw the back 3 formation in the lineup. That's not normal, that's a massive problem. So in this video, I want to break down what Sonia Bompastor has gotten wrong with this Chelsea squad. At the core of all of this is one thing: stubbornness. Despite Chelsea's undefeated domestic season last year, Lyon fans were right. Bompastor relies heavily on star power, refuses to adapt her tactics, and eventually loses the locker room, something we're already seeing. The biggest issue Chelsea have right now is the formation, and as I alluded to before, it's the back 3. Bompastor is committed to it, even though Chelsea look like a shell themselves every single time they play in it. Now, it's not like Chelsea were playing incredible football in a traditional back 4 earlier this season, but the performances were clearly more positive. Take the League Cup semi-final win over Manchester City, where Chelsea played in the back three. Chelsea winning that game was a miracle. City created chance after chance, but just couldn't finish. Chelsea's only goal that game came from Captain exploiting Yamashita's shaky aerial presence. And after seeing that game, fans were begging Bompastor to change something ahead of the crucial Arsenal match, because Chelsea had just been dominated by the team that lost. Well, Bompastor didn't change anything that actually mattered. She made some tweaks, but they still lined up in the back three, somehow making it worse because she swapped Gurma and Bright, putting Bright at left center back, which makes no sense given both players' profiles. She also changed the midfield slightly, bringing Wrighton in for Newskin and playing Wrighton as a 10. We will come back to this. And just overall, this midfield is incredibly easy to press. What Bompastor didn't change was playing two up top with Kerr and Thompson. It didn't work last game. Why would it work against Arsenal? And we'll touch on this again later also. One of the biggest tactical obsessions Bompastor has is playing fullbacks Lucy Bronze and Ellie Carpenter together on the same side. Bronze at right center back, Carpenter at right wing back. Bompastor actually talked about wanting to do this back in October before Bronze returned from injury, and Chelsea fans hated the idea then, and they were right, because it leads directly to another major issue of Bompastor's: players being played out of position. Because Bompastor insists on a back three, she needs wingbacks. And that's why Sanji Baltimore has been converted into one, even though she's clearly better at a winger position. When Chelsea spent over $1 million on Alyssa Thompson, Bompastor immediately started talking about her as a wingback too. And thank God that experiment has mostly died, because shockingly, Thompson's not effective as a wingback. But still, instead of keeping Thompson, one of Chelsea's best players this season, at winger, Bompastor has recently played her as a 9 alongside Sam Kerr. Worse, in the 5-1 loss to City that finally convinced me to make this video, Bompastor played Thompson at 9 without Kerr. She was the lone striker at 5'3". Ignore the thought mob scores for a second. This decision was a major reason why Chelsea had zero presence in the box this game. Bronze at right center back doesn't really work either. She naturally wants to get up to attack and play hero ball, which leaves Gurma and either Bright or Bjorn completely stretched. But because Bompastor is obsessed with having both Bronze and Carpenter on the pitch, the back three becomes non-negotiable. And yes, I get the appeal of Carpenter as an attacking wingback, but many of her best performances came in a traditional back four, with Bjorn and Gurma at center back and Carpenter at fullback. Now, let's talk about Gur Wrighton as a 10 against Arsenal. This is actually something Bompastor tried immediately when she got the job last year. And on paper, it could work given Wrighton's skill set. However, in practice, it doesn't. And to Bompastor's credit, in a rare moment, she realized that and actually moved Wrighton back to left wing. We all know Wrighton is at her best on the left. So why, after soft benching her for most of the season, are you suddenly starting her at attacking mid in one of the biggest games of the year in a position she hasn't played in a year? This leads to another major issue: player selection, favoritism, and lack of rotation. Wrighton didn't play in the 5-1 loss to City, but I would have actually started her on the left instead of Baltimore. Kirsten Kasperai is not a defender you beat by dribbling. She's fast, strong, and great at clearances. You beat her with off-ball movement and passing, something Wrighton excels at and has done successfully against Kasperai before. But no, because you're in the back three, Baltimore has to play wingback. Bompastor clearly has favorites, and she's icing players out. Katerina Macario just reportedly rejected an extension from Chelsea, which, you know, alarm bells should be going off considering that there are many other players whose contracts are expiring, like Hannah Hampton, Sam Kerr, Gur Wrighton, and Aggie Beaver-Jones this summer, to name a few. And when she does play, Bompastor uses her as a 9 instead of her natural attacking midfield role. Chelsea have frequently been praised for their succession planning in the transfer market and effective evolution of the squad that helped them win the past 6 league titles. That planning seems to have gone slightly awry. And crucially, as one source close to the club said after Sunday's defeat, too many players are performing as if they know they're leaving this summer. Major squad evolution looks likely. Micah Hamano gets loaned out to Tottenham after being benched despite a strong start to the season. Then, Bompastor immediately tries to bring in another attacking midfielder. What's the logic there? Sioka Nuskin thrived under Emma Hayes as a true Swiss Army knife. Under Bompastor, she's embarrassed to the point where she'll likely look for another club at 25, despite being a regular starter for the German national team. Youngster Vika Kaptein is preferred by Bompastor over Nuskin, and while Kaptein has had amazing moments and will be a great player, she seems to be undroppable. But instead of rotating, she just wants to sign another French midfielder instead of using the one she has on the bench. Again, her player management is horrible. Keeping the armband on Millie Bright instead of giving it to someone like Erin Cuthbert has blown up in the club's face. Bright is mentioned in Tom Gary's article as one of the possible reasons for discontent in the dressing room. Quote, it is understood several members of the team and staff were less than impressed in November when Bright declined the chance to defend the Chelsea goalkeeper Hannah Hampton. Bright's dismissal of Mary Earp's criticism of Hampton in Earp's biography as, quote, gossip, did not go down well in the camp when many had hoped she would express support for a club teammate. If you are the captain of your club and another player rags on your young teammate publicly, you stick up for them. Calling it gossip is pathetic, considering Hampton has publicly talked about the mental health struggles she went through after being dropped by England. Not to mention, while Bright is a legend at the club, and rightfully so, Bright's ability has fallen off a cliff this season, hurting the team on the pitch more than anything. So yeah, it seems like there is a divide in the dressing room. Some sources are saying the players are no longer playing for the manager, they're getting less tactical instructions than under Emma Hayes. However, other sources in the club say a lot of the players actually do like Bompastor and have issues with other parts of the club. Now, I understand wanting to give Bompastor some benefit of the doubt because of injuries. Natalie Bjorn has been injured. Myra Ramirez and Kadisha Buchanan are long-term absences. Sam Kerr is scoring, but she is still clearly not back to her best post-ACL tear. And if you're a manager, this is exactly when you trust your younger players like Verla Berman and Aggie Beaver-Jones. But Bompastor doesn't. Instead of starting Berman or even Nuskin at center back, she opts for Bright, who always does more harm than good nowadays. And I'm going to reiterate this again, we are still talking about the same issues we were talking about at the beginning of the season. Okay, go back and watch the video I made, it's the same issues. Sometimes she does adjust. She benched Bright before Barcelona and Chelsea got a draw, but she refuses to take accountability for her tactics, or even considering changing them when things don't work out. And to the point where after the City loss, she blamed the club not being as active in the transfer market as she wanted to be? What? Chelsea have spent over $1 million on 2 players in the past year. They spent $500,000 on Walsh, a player she specifically wanted. This squad is more than good enough. She's just not using a lot of the players. This might be a sackable offense on its own. The squad is fine. And Bompastor's lack of accountability is why we see the same mistakes over and over again. You may also say Chelsea should give her time to build the squad to her wants this summer. Make it hers. As I said before, reports are there is going to be a mass exodus this summer. And to that I would say we have seen Bompastor build the squad to her specifications at Lyon, and it didn't result in anything amazing. She brought in a lot of talent but couldn't get the best out of them, underperforming in multiple competitions. And as said at the start of the video, players could now be leaving due to new management. Now, are the players blameless? No. Chelsea had 18 shots against Arsenal, only 1 on target, 5 big chances missed. But I think this really draws to the main reason I think Bompastor should be sacked aside from her stubbornness. She does not get the best out of her players. She puts them in positions to fail. Lauren James, who should be a club cornerstone, has completely disappeared under Bompastor. If you're still Bompastor in, name me one player that has gone better under her. Every single player has regressed. She rode star power at Lyon, and she continues to do that with Chelsea. Last year, she rode on the tails of Emma Hayes' success, trusted her stars, but like we see in Lyon, that eventually runs out. And it's no surprise Bompastor has lost the locker room. When you lose the locker room, it's over. And that's what's being reported by The Athletic right now. And the irony is this, the players Chelsea should be building around are the ones Bompastor is trying to force out of the club. So yeah, if you want to save this sinking ship, Bompastor has to go. Because one, if she doesn't, they might not qualify for the Champions League next year. And players who shouldn't leave will. And then when she's inevitably sacked, Chelsea will be left in a worse place than if you try to reverse course now. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with my assessment, or do you think I'm being a little rash? Because I have thought about this for over a year watching Chelsea football. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember, this is just my opinion, so please don't call me mean names in the comments.